All right, James. I remember, I think about a week ago or maybe 2 weeks ago. I don't know. Something inspired me. We were texting each other, and I said, what would be a cool idea for a video? And I had mentioned that there's certain, like, I guess you could say creatures. They would call them cryptids now, right? Cryptozoology is a thing. There's certain creatures that seem to be ubiquitous, particularly across, like you'd say, the Eurasian landmass, the largest landmass in the world, And I brought up dragons, lions. Okay, now of course, lion is a real animal, okay, but it signifies power. Dragons, of course, are signify power as well, and also the idea of like the Yeti, Bigfoot, abominable snowman, missing link, sort of, or like hairy little people or whatever you want, like people who were before humans that are still around, snatching people up or scaring people on the highway or whatever. And I thought we do a video each for one of these. Well, we'll go with the first one, the dragon. Like if you have you see whales, the Welsh flag, you have dragons. You see dragons mentioned with Saint George, and then you go all the way to the other side of the planet, and the Chinese, the dragons are literally mystical beings of great power. They're linked to, I believe, tsunamis and earthquakes in Japan as well. The idea of giant, powerful reptilian creatures that signify an even higher power. What is your thought on these things? On this idea of the dragon?
There was a fellow named Emmanuel Velikovsky who thought that these being associated with catastrophes, that the dragon could possibly represent a comet that caused firestorms on the planet. I know that you have in at the end of the book of Job, the next to the last section is a description of Leviathan. And Leviathan as is described as a creature that breathes steam and fire out of the ocean, comes up out of the ocean, and it has its snouts like furnaces. It has seamless scales, so it's a scaled creature. It's an oceanic creature, and it breathes fire. And you have the Nordic idea, the worm Ouroboros, the rejuvenating serpent that circles the world, the Midgard serpent. And at the end of Beowulf, the hero that basically beat the Yeti-like creature, Grendel and his mother, is slain by a dragon, and the dragon is awakened by the greed of some thief that's raiding a tomb, and then awakens the dragon. So I would guess that if I had to get pinned down, I think that an idea of a dragon might be a partial memory of a former civilization that had great power. That was evil, maybe firebombing other nations from the sky.
No.
Okay. That's that was basically the idea behind my novel Thunderbird. Was that there would, and then you have the Native Americans with the Thunderbird. The Aztecs had the idea of the witch flying around on her broom that was flaming. And this seemed to obviously be an idealized comet that did great evil. So I don't know. My mind goes three different ways on this with the dragons.
No, I'll just say that, like, for example, of course, there's a carryover between obviously serpents, right? Like the Hydra. The you had mentioned the worm.
Pitho, the serpent that when the hero that founded Thebes killed it, its venom poisoned the earth.
Yeah, yeah, I remember that.
And the Hydra that Heracles killed, but then a centaur tricked him into wearing a shirt that had the Hydra's poison on it, and Heracles was poisoned by the Hydra's poison, and he cut down the whole forest to build his own funeral pyre and
Yeah,
throw
no,
himself on it. You know, so this is there's just so much of this stuff that Velikovsky probably has a point about a natural disaster.
So we got the idea of a natural disaster. Obviously, also with the connection of the serpent, the idea of a sea serpent, the idea also of, especially with these pamphlets. I'm going to do a video on that Jersey Devil book I had, but I was more interested, less in the Jersey Devil and more in the description of like South Jersey Pine Barrens with the Quaker culture. But I was more interested in the idea of there was a lot of pamphlets published, particularly in the 1600s and 1700s into the 1800s, and the most popular ones always dealt with obviously some kind of creature or monstrosity that mostly represented some kind of omen. And you had mentioned the comet, right? The comet sort of is like a serpent style, looks kind of like a serpent. But do you think, in terms of the memory, the mammalian DNA, do you think that there could be any racial memory, even if it's of a hominid, of predatory reptiles or anything of the prehistoric past with dinosaurs? Do you think that's a possibility, or it's just that's too far ago, too long ago?
I think so. There's two interesting cases. There's a series that started with West of Eden by a guy named Harry Harrison, who wrote Make Room, Make Room, which was made into Soy and Crane. He wrote a trilogy about primates that evolved from New World primates, from monkeys, in a world where the comet that wiped out the dinosaurs didn't hit. And then they eventually end up having a showdown with intelligent raptors that use biology instead of technology.
Oh, wow.
You know, they like...
that sounds really cool. How come I never heard of that?
They breed like a type of tree bark. Like an animal that clings on a tree bark that they can then put on to keep warm.
Oh.
You know, they breed frogs into something like a microscope. It's a very ingenious novel. And so that's just a speculative idea. But the magazine Omni in the 1970s, mid-1970s, actually did an article on trying to explain the science behind dragons, which I can only, I can remember but a tiny part of it, because I used to read Omni when I was like 14, 15 years old.
Oh, you're a smart kid.
You know, so I think the crocodile is enough. Something like the saltwater croc
is enough of a racial memory, because it is sort of a dinosaur.
It could be enough. And the Egyptians have the crocodile of the afterlife that'll eat you if you sink down in the river of death because your heart's too heavy.
In the water, the river, or something.
Yeah. So I'm inclined to think that there's got to be some kind of horrific memory of maybe more widespread crocodilian population.
All right, that's interesting. All right.
So that was a big deal for the Egyptians.
All right, so we went over this. It's an interesting discussion. So no answers given, but remember, there's not about answers, because you'll never know the answer.